Taking a walk with Abraham Nhial means going on an incredible journey. That's because every step he takes is another reminder of how far he's come and how far he had to go to survive.
I'm one of the many people who doesn't know when they were born. But actually, I believe I was maybe 9 years or 10 when I took a long walk.
Tending flocks near his rural village in southern Sudan was Abraham's entire world, one that was shattered by the beating drums of civil war in 1989.
In Sudan, drum mean many things, but the one I had was not a drum of joy, it was a drum of war. The war was coming to us. So the drum was telling us, run and don't come back.
And that's what Abraham did. He ran. But he was not alone. Thousands of boys like him were stranded when the northern Sudanese Islamic forces raided the predominantly Christian south, torching villages, kidnapping girls, and killing men and women.
I came back, as many of us came back to see what happened. But only we find the dead people. And the village we knew looked totally different.
And so this band of terrified, traumatized boys, some as young as 6, went on a journey. Along the way, they were joined by others. By the time they made their 3-month trek to the Ethiopian border, there were over 20,000 of them walking together.
This walk was not just a walk of relaxing and take time. It's a walk of on pressure. It's a walk of trying to dodge bullets. It's a walk of trying to fight with wild animals. It's a walk of walking with no shoes and no water and no food.
Eating leaves and roots and sometimes drinking their own urine to survive, these lost boys leaned on one another for support, friendship, and hope.
We were not coming from one tribe or one region, but God joined us to be one family. In fact, the lost boy called themselves brothers.
And it was a journey that brought Abraham Nhial to find his true father, the one who would never leave him or be taken away by war.
It was in 1989 when I made it to Ethiopia, and I had this preacher. A pastor was preaching on Sundays, and the book actually which changed my whole life was John 3:16.
For a boy who had so many brushes with death and had seen thousands of his lost boy brothers die along the way, he started to ask questions.
And even in my long journey, one of the questions I've been asking myself was, what is the meaning of life if this thing happened to us? But I came to know this when I became a Christian, that actually the meaning of life was that one on the cross when Jesus gave his life to all humankind. Unless we discover that, we will not know the meaning of life.
And that's why Abraham says he was saved, why he made it when others didn't. Not because of his faith so much, but because of his story. One he has shared with audiences large and small, including former U.S. President George Bush and the news magazine 60 Minutes. He had spent 14 years living in refugee camps in Ethiopia and Kenya when he was selected along with 4,000 boys to immigrate to the U.S. in 2001. He had been serving as an Anglican minister at the camp, a calling that would continue when he moved to his new home.
Being in foreign lands, many things happen. And as a pastor, you know, sometimes I have no rest. And in fact, my phone rings whole night and whole day so that I will be available. There's the children we are supporting.
And as much as he helps his brothers, he hasn't forgotten about his people. That's why he's made several trips back to aid and encourage those still caught in the conflict. He's traveled with groups of Americans to show them firsthand what is going on. And while there is a peace agreement between the North and South, Nhial says there's ongoing persecution of Christians. And that's why he's back in Africa, albeit at Uganda Christian University. Here he can be closer to his wife and 2 daughters, still living in Kenya. This is just another step on the incredible road he's traveled.
My hope is to come back when I finish my master, and God willing, to move back to Sudan to serve the church. How are you, Chaplain?
He knows in order to serve, he also needs to forgive those who took his loved ones, those who tore his country apart.
If we are really true followers of Jesus Christ, he commands us that we should not only love our neighbors, but we should love our enemies. The church in Sudan and the Christian in Sudan been doing this. Even in the midst of losing more than 2 million people, we still show love to our enemies, so that they will know that God loved them too.
And there's a lot of rebuilding to do. Sudan is still a land surrounded by struggles. In Darfur and in neighboring Chad, development and aid has been slow. But Sudan is a land of survivors, and Abraham Nhial and many lost boys are making their way home. They're not empty-handed. They have education, wisdom, and resources to share. They also have hope, perhaps the rarest resource in that desolate land.
I think what they need to know is that when human beings let you down, God will never let you down.
It's been 20 years since the terrible day Abraham Nhial took a long walk. And though he's now a husband and father, he will always be known as a lost boy. That's a different face than that boy who left, isn't it?
Oh yes, I'm a grown-up man now.
In Mukono, Uganda, Denise, Lodde, 100 Huntley Street.